Okay, doctor. So, when you feel like your schedule is like super full and the vibe of the office is like everyone's busy, like super busy, and everyone's hustling around, nobody's sitting still. You're coming in early, you're leaving late. You're not, just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, but you feel like your bank account isn't matching the energy.
That I feel completely slammed but can't make payroll existence, it's actually super common. It's when we get asked to start pulling numbers to check on that feeling.
Yeah, it's super common. Sometimes it's the opposite. Everything seems fine, right? Or at least fine enough. And no one is asking questions. And in fact, sometimes maybe even the doctor is a little resistant to conversations about numbers, maybe even when we try to bring it up, or about systems or whatever. It's kind of like that culture of avoidance that we talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
But you dig into the KPIs and you realize, oh no, you are bleeding out somewhere.
So today we're going to be talking about KPIs and doing KPI checkups. You might not want to hear what the numbers are saying, but you do need to. Welcome to the Truth Decay Podcast, talking dollars and cents with Sara Baker and LaRae McMullen.
So let's start with this. Not all financial stress in a practice is visible on the surface. What I mean by that is sometimes you literally can't make your payroll, right? Sometimes you get a lab bill and you kind of realize, wow, I am upside down on paying these lab bills versus what I'm charging for my crowns, right? So sometimes the stress is right there, you can see it, whatever. But honestly, sometimes when I said fine enough before, there's a lot that's happening, but you have to kind of dig down to see it. So KPIs, or key performance indicators, which is what KPI means, they're the reality check that your revenue system needs, even if you are not ready for it.
Exactly. We once had a client who thought everything was fine. Production was up, the team was busy, but their AR ratio was actually a mess.
Yeah, so let's start there, right? So the first KPI that you need to know is AR ratio. So the AR ratio is your total AR divided by your monthly production. So if you're running a $200,000 a month practice and your AR is $150,000, your AR ratio is 0.75. Super healthy.
Right. But this practice, their AR ratio was 2.5. That's more than 2.5 months of revenue sitting uncollected. That's a concerning number. Why is this AR stacking up like that? What's happening to those final patient balances? And was there even a system in place? We talk about systems all the time. I'm thinking there probably wasn't in this case.
And this office didn't know that answer because they weren't tracking this KPI or any KPI until we came in and had them start to do it, right? Yeah. And what do I love to say? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I love to say a lot of stuff. Or they were tracking it sometimes by running the AR report, but didn't really do anything with it or didn't really know what it meant. So they had this paper in their hand and they were just kind of interesting. And then it didn't go anywhere.
And if you're pulling reports but never acting on them, you're wasting potential. You have the tools to ask the right questions, to make some good moves, but you're not taking those steps. And it kind of makes our fingers a little itchy.
Yeah. So let's then talk about probably the most common KPI that is paid attention to in dentistry, I would say, but I actually think there's a component of it that's misunderstood. Collections percentage, you find this by dividing your total amount collected, so your total collections, and typically you would take it for a month, you go month by month, and you divide it by your total net production. So that's your gross production minus adjustments. And then you multiply it by 100. So the part that most people get wrong is that it has to be your net production, not your gross production. So, like most people, if you post like say UCR,
right,
you are not intending, sometimes you are intending to collect up to your UCR, but let's say something happens, you post your UCR, you have to make some kind of adjustment, right? Like an insurance adjustment, or you give a cash patient a discount, right? You didn't intend to collect up to that gross number. You actually intended to collect up to that adjusted, that net number, right? So if you are using your gross production to kind of like try to get to 100%, you're literally never going to do it. So you need to use your net production, and that's going to give you a more accurate picture of how close you're getting to 100% of collecting your collectible production. So the industry standard in dentistry, we've talked about this in a previous podcast, is 91%. So most offices on average are collecting 91% of their net production that they produce per month.
Of their collectible production.
Correct. And
meaning they're leaving 9% uncollected.
That's exactly right. Yeah. They're leaving 9% on the table, right? And that is tied up in, we've talked about this before. Go listen to our previous podcast. But that means it's tied up in insurance aging. It's tied up in final balances that are just sitting on the AR that's making your AR ratio go higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really important number, because we actually had an office come to us recently who thought they were doing great. And when we figured out their percentage, it was like 65%.
It was bad.
And we were like, did you know that you're only collecting like 65% of your collectible? And they had no idea, because again, it was fine enough, right?
Yeah.
So 100% will be great. Really, honestly, 98% should be like minimum, 98, 99% should be where you're living.
You should be hitting that, and, like, more times than not.
And I want to be clear, this is also general dentistry, or like ortho is a little different, right? Just to be clear, specialty offices are a little bit different because their cases
that's a good point.
Are different, but we're just talking averages here, and you do want to try to be hitting as close to 100% as possible, just in general. So
yeah, and if it's lower than that, then you need to figure out why, because there could be a good reason that you have a bad month, a super low production 4 to 6 weeks before, perhaps. Like maybe it's a holiday season like it is right now. Yes. You might have been off for Thanksgiving or off for Christmas or something like that. But so there, if you do have a lower month, then you need to know kind of why.
Well, like LaRae, for instance, we found that like November was like a really low month, right? Collections wise, because, people are off. Like offices. And also you see significant changes. I mean, it's funny, you may not think so, but because we're on the billing end of it, we see significant impacts depending on like where holidays fall in the week. Because if a holiday falls on like, let's say Christmas falls on like a Wednesday, then an office potentially is going to take maybe the whole week off. Maybe they're going to take, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, right? Versus if the holiday falls on Friday, then maybe they're only going to take Thursday, Friday off. And that one day off is a big deal, right? Like
it's a big deal in your production.
Yeah, we see big impacts. So,
and it's also impacts with like insurance and the how quickly they pay those claims out. So even if you are open, the insurance might have a delay, and that could be one of the reasons why your number's a little low. And then you should expect to see that number go higher, like over 100% the next month.
That's a good point.
But as long as you're kind of running it and checking on those KPIs, that's kind of what we're talking about here, is just making sure that you are in the know of what's going on. Don't let it just go by the wayside. Don't ignore it. There's a reason why there's KPIs, and you really should be following
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, that's the same with your AR in overall, because you need to be aware that if, again, and we're talking averages, right? Because ortho specifically is a little bit of a outlier for this because there's such big cases that are just outstanding and they're just gonna be outstanding, right? But if more than 10% of your AR is over 90 days old, it really honestly means you've got a systems issue, right? Like something is not being run regularly and addressed regularly and decisions being made on a regular basis. It could be your statement process. It could be patient follow-up. Maybe it's your patient portion collections on date of service that needs some work. Maybe it's your insurance aging report, right? Like maybe insurance claims are just living and languishing, and that's what is making the AR go into the 90-day column, right? But you have to figure it out. Like you need to be aware of that and you need to figure it out.
And honestly, that KPI alone can tell if your front desk process or your back end billing process needs a little help, because the longer that balance sits, the less likely you'll be able to collect it.
Like we really should do specifically an episode on just reasons why AR creeps up. Like maybe we should do that. Like just
I mean, there's so many different reasons, and some are, like I said before, some of them the next month you might recoup that, right? But if you're not understanding why your AR is low, then it's going to be really hard for you to be able to collect that, and you don't want that balance to sit long.
That's right. So here's the myth. This is a lot of work. And I'm too busy for like all these reports that you guys are saying. But Sara, but LaRae, you're saying too many things. I would argue if you're not watching these KPIs, you're losing that money, that hard-earned money that you are working so hard to produce. And, you know, like you're paying overhead on, and you're paying people, and you're supervising and managing, you know, employees to facilitate you getting, like, all of that you are working really hard for. Why wouldn't you be keeping like a really super close eye on it in the form of reports and measuring it?
Exactly. And like your schedule may look good, but then your profitability is lower. It's telling a different story. So that's where those metrics can come in.
It's the difference between running a practice that's just busy and running one that's financially healthy.
Yeah. Let's head into the numbers that matter most, because once you know what to track, you can start actually fixing them.
Yes. So, okay. KPI toolbox time. So let's walk through what to track, how often, and what good versus bad looks like.
Sure. Let's start at the top then. So production. Track it daily, weekly, monthly. Your practice management software can make this very easy. Learn how to use your practice management software. Are you growing? Are you flatlining? Are you meeting your daily goals? Note, if you have to also take your adjustments into consideration, are you posting UCR? Why are you posting UCR if so? It's preventing you from easily seeing other trends and inflating your gross production. A huge difference in gross production and net production is not ideal. You don't want that. You don't want that big gap.
Yeah, like just as a side note, if you're posting UCR, I really want you to ask yourself why you're doing that. I really think you're making your life harder for no good reason. I just want you to think about that. If you're posting UCR, give me a call. Give us a call. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
How come you're doing that? Let's talk about it. Because we have some opinions on it, and you might want to hear it or might not want to, but you know.
I think that some people might have a reason why they're posting UCR,
Sure.
But in the longevity of it, it just doesn't make sense. It's making it really hard for you to understand where your practice actually is.
That's right.
Numbers-wise.
I think so too, because I think a lot can be seen in adjustments. I think a lot hides in adjustments. And if you are posting
I think
UCR,
a lot of people don't check that enough.
That's right. That's correct. Yes, exactly. So next up, collections, right? We have already discussed the collections percentage. You want to be collecting, as we said, 98 to 100 or plus of adjusted production, and anything less, you're potentially not following up on claims or final balances like effectively. So this is doable. It is 1,000% doable. We do it every day. You just have to have a consistent effective system.
Another thing to pay attention to would be case acceptance. So if fewer than 75% of your patients are saying yes to treatment, something's off. It's either presentation, trust, or cost clarity. You can address these issues, and we would suggest that you look into that. And if your case acceptance rate is low, then maybe the person who is trying to sell those treatment plans just doesn't understand kind of like how you would like that presented.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one is new patients. So are you tracking that number monthly? Do you know where your new patients are coming from? What source are your new patients coming from? Is your marketing working? Are you doing any marketing?
Yeah. So next we'll talk about hygiene reappointment rate. This is actually a really big deal. You want 90% of those recare patients to be pre-booked. Otherwise, you've got a problem with how patients are being talked to about their next appointment, right? Because if I go to the dentist and they just let me walk out, I may have no idea that it's been 6 months and I can go again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pre-book those people.
Yeah. Kind of related, cancellations and no-shows. You want to keep those under 5%. You want to track those. That is typically trackable in your practice management software. You want to keep those under 5%. So if it's higher, your schedule's not real. Like it's padded with ghosts, basically. And you, as the practice owner, are also potentially paying your hygienists not to see patients, depending on how you pay your team, which is like such a bummer, right? Not just for you as the practice owner, but speaking as my sister-in-law as a hygienist. And I know that it's a real bummer for her when her schedule falls apart, right? I know if there's any hygienists listening, it's a bummer for them when they have nothing to do, right? And they're just either sitting around, they're trying to find something to do. Maybe it's a situation where they are paid for the patients that they see. So now they are not getting paid.
They're not getting paid
for something that isn't their fault, really, right? And so, if your cancellations and no-shows are over 5%, something's happening. Some part of that system needs to be strengthened.
Addressed. Yeah. So here's a big tip from the California Dental Association and why it's so important to pay attention to reports on a regular basis, not just one and done. Track trends, not snapshots. Don't just look at 1 month, look for patterns over 3, 6, 12 months. We do that a lot here. We like to take an average of 12 months because just as we were talking earlier about, you can have a month with low production that is legitimate, like Thanksgiving that we just had that week. Thursday, Friday, some people took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that could lower your production.
And you need to get your team involved ultimately, right? Because you as the practice owner don't feel like you're in this alone. Your success shouldn't be a secret. If your team doesn't know your KPIs, they can't influence them, right? I think it's a team effort to be successful. That's very much how I feel. And so I think that you could really benefit and your office could really benefit from getting your whole team involved and reviewing these numbers and seeing where improvements can be made. And this can be something that you all share and you don't have to bear this kind of burden of these numbers alone, practice owners.
Yeah. And we've said it before, if the practice is bleeding revenue, the KPIs are the first symptoms. So ignoring them doesn't stop the problem, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like you wouldn't ignore a persistent toothache. We use so many dental analogies, like with business and with what we do. Don't ignore a lagging AR or a flat collections, right? Like don't ignore that toothache. Don't ignore that deep pocket. Don't ignore your AR.
Right. When in doubt, start small and focused. AR ratio, collections, and over 90 AR. So those 3 things right there will really get you started on being able to focus on these things. So the data is talking to you. Are you listening? All right. So what did we learn? KPIs shouldn't be scary. They're just information. but only if you're looking at them. It will be scary when you suddenly can't pay your bills. That'll be real scary.
Exactly. And the good news is most of these numbers are right in your practice management software. Like you literally just have to pull them and pay attention.
Exactly. If your AR ratio's high or your collection percentage is low, that's not just a number. That's a sign of what's broken.
And the longer you ignore it, you're leaving actual collectible money on the table. So treat it like a clinical emergency because financially it is.
Mm-hmm. So Sarah, what are our top takeaways for today?
So number one, a healthy AR ratio. I actually don't know if we said that explicitly, but a healthy AR ratio is under 1.5. The closer to 1.0, the better.
Yeah. Number two, net collection should be between 98 and 100%. If it's lower, check your adjustments and then follow up.
And number three, aging AR over 90 days should be 10% or less. Or it's time to investigate your statement and patient communication process and run your insurance aging report.
Yeah.
So LaRae, what are 2 action steps that our listeners can take right now?
Well, number one would be to figure out those simple 3 KPIs that we've just talked about, and do it for the last 6 months. If you can't go back a whole 12 months, just do it for the last 6 months. See what that looks like. What do you think? Are there any surprises? Did they spark any conversations that you might want to have with your staff?
And then the second thing is set some time aside every month to review those KPIs. So, and as many others as possible, right? Like those 3 are great. And then like more are good or even better. So literally block time in your schedule, maybe lunchtime at the beginning of every month, perhaps. Go to your schedule, block time. That's the action step. If you have to spread it out over 2 to 3 days, do that, right? If you have to maybe do it before you start seeing patients, do that. If you have to stay after, it's important enough to make time to do it. So do that. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for listening. If you felt like that was helpful, if you feel like that could, get you to look at some stuff and, maybe, I don't know, find some stuff that you didn't know about before, that'd be great. And
set up your own KPIs.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Like consider subscribing on whatever platform you are listening to us on. You can send us an email at hello@thetruthdecaydpodcast.com. Also, please check us out at sddentalsolutions.com. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to address any other issues that you might have. You have KPI questions, and if you want us to do a deep dive maybe on any of these metrics, pew, 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 give us a call. Send us a message, and hey, go check out your AR ratio. Go do it right now. Like, we're done, so go listen to it right now.
All right, guys, you can, as always, you can find us on LinkedIn, both Sarah, myself, and SD Dental Solutions. And you can find us on Instagram, and we're also on Facebook. So yeah, come say hi.
Come say hi. That's it. Thank you guys all again. We appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.